Hmm. We were just discussing the snakes in Claude's house. He used to keep a whole lot of snakes there, which frightened me at the thought of visiting him.
Well, I don't keep the snakes. It's my son who's a snake handler, so I don't keep
Cobras and pythons and all kinds of snakes.
Well, actually, they are less harmful than many human beings.
True. I agree with that. I'm scared of them all the same. I'm not scared of human.
Well, it's the same sort of fear that now that you mentioned it, that people have about snakes, is also similar with the attitudes that you're trying to attack. People have these notions about very perceived, very well accepted notions. And you say Raju has come along and saying that, Euclid didn't exist and Pythagoras didn't exist, and you please produce proof of them. And of course, it's very difficult to produce proof. But if you look at the NCERT textbooks, you can see proof, because they've even got a picture of Euclid, and they've got a picture of Plato and Socrates, which even the Greeks don't have. So,
You know the story of that picture? I objected to it some 15 years ago. And one of the authors of the text, Pervin Sinclair, she was there, and I said that this is a Caucasian stereotype. So she was there, and she said that at this meeting, I was giving a talk, and she said that it was a Chaubey meeting, Indian Social Science Academy. So she said, oh, it's like all Sardardis look alike. So, so then she changed the picture, and what she took seriously was the stereotype part, not the Caucasian part. So she put in a Chinese-looking Euclid there. She changed the picture. Earlier it was she became director of NCERT. Now she's out. There's some charges and so on against her, and she refuses to respond to any of this stuff. So it is a deliberate kind of thing to keep it like that. Okay, so maybe we start now. Should we start the meeting?
Yes, I think we go ahead, because we've still got the same 16 people, so there's no point in 16 people being punished because the 17th and the 18th have not come on time.
Okay, it is recording, it is live, everything is all right. So, welcome everybody, namaskar. And I would like to welcome all of you and to this meeting, which has come out as an outcome of some of the controversy that has erupted in the media about removal of Pythagoras. So our position is very clear that in this particular meeting, we are going to discuss the evidence for Pythagoras. And it is not just any kind of an innocent lie, because this has been used to assert the superiority of whites. It has been used to assert this by people like Kant over Egyptians. And this has been done very systematically. And in general, it's not just that particular individual Pythagoras, about Greeks and so on. So let me start by showing you my slides. I hope I can manage that. I'm doing so many things. Share screen. Okay. So where is my screen? Screen. Where is it gone? Huh? Whiteboard, iPhone. Wait a minute. I can't find it. Show all windows. Wait a minute. My screen, here it is. Okay, now it should be visible. So, sorry, I am doing both the stuff, managing and doing it, so it becomes a little difficult to do everything. So, share screen. It's still not visible. iPhone, iPad, this, Mozilla Firefox. Not showing the tab. I'm sorry, just give me a minute. Okay. Share screen. Here it is. Okay, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. So let me start with that. I'm just going to try and introduce what this topic is about, what this debate is about, because that part may not be clear to everybody, that this debate is being done. For what purpose is it being done? A debate on the term Pythagorean theorem. All right. So the proposition we are going to debate is that in the opinion of this house, the term Pythagorean theorem should be removed from our school text, as it is nothing more than a historical fiction. That is Claude's polite language for lie. All right. So it's a fiction. Now the Twitter summary is given here. What we were saying. Here the Twitter summary, it's taking a long time. Yeah. So give hard evidence for Pythagoras. One, for his connection to the Pythagorean theorem. After, if you call it Pythagorean theorem, there must be some evidence to connect it. And third, you're calling it a theorem. So is there any axiomatic proof? A theorem must have an axiomatic proof. Our objection is not just to the term Pythagoras, but to the term theorem. That's the most important part of the objection. And then, of course, the idea is that this kind of proof was used by the crusading church. It is not necessarily superior, but we go to that at another time. All right, now where is my screen? Okay, so that's part one of the tweet. And part two of the tweet is that if we are looking at, this connection is slow because it's being loaded. Okay, so if there is no evidence, I mean, it's no point saying it's difficult. If there is no evidence, why do we want Pythagorean theorem? Both the terms are very objectionable because they are part of racist history and so on. We want to remove it. And now, what's the kind of evidence that we are willing to accept? We cannot say this Westerner said this. That is Paschimi Shab, Western Shab the Praman. It is the authoritative word. We don't want that. We want actual evidence. What is the source from which you arrived at it? All right. So that's the issue. And that's what we want to do. And the important point to note is that just because some Westerners said so, that does not constitute hard evidence. And I repeat, the debate today is restricted to just the term Pythagorean theorem, nothing else. There are lots of other things that we want to discuss, but we'll discuss eventually, but not today. So whether there is hard evidence, what is its connection, and if not, whether the term should be removed from our school text. That's all. And this is what is stated clearly in the call for debate. I hope all of you have seen it. I won't repeat it. So the most important aspect of the debate is the term theorem. It's not about Pythagoras, because there are so many Greeks, Pythagoras, Thales, Euclid, etc., so many stories. We are worried about the term theorem. That is problematic. And that is what we mean when we say, was there theorem means it should have an axiomatic proof. Was there any axiomatic proof of the Pythagorean proposition, so-called Pythagorean proposition, by Greeks or anybody else before Hilbert in 1899? So 20th century basically. If not, the term theorem must go. So the term theorem must go, and a theorem has an axiomatic proof. I'll just give you this excerpt from the NCERT class 9 text. So if you look at point 5, a mathematical statement whose truth has been established is called a theorem. And how established? It should be a proof, should be an axiomatic proof, because this is about proofs in mathematics. Appendix 9th standard text we are talking about, nothing very big. So a proof is made up of successive sequences of, well, a sequence of, not successive, sequence of mathematical statements in which each statement is either an axiom or is derived from preceding statements by means of some rule of reasoning. which they called deduced. Okay, some rule of reasoning. So this is the requirement for a theorem according to the class 9 text, which is attributed to Euclid. And so we want to check also the critical aspect of theorem, because the idea is this is a superior way of doing mathematics. Our objection is to that terms, that notion of superiority. Okay, so this is from class 9 text. And the trick here is that it is not just false history. Everybody jumps at the false history part, but it is false history plus bad philosophy. And the idea is that it's a red herring. So everybody's focus is on the false history or Pythagoras or no Pythagoras or what. But the critical issue is the bad philosophy of mathematics, the theorem part, which is being pushed into it. So most people are fooled. They just keep attacking the historical part. The central concern is with the philosophical part. That has to go, that philosophy has to change. The teaching of mathematics has to change, right? That's important. And they think that philosophy part is not important, but it is the most important thing for us. So why are we restricted to just the term? Because there is a systematic strategy of telling 1,000 lies to save that one lie about Pythagoras theorem. So if we go to all those lies, try everything, then there are 1,000 lies. What are we discussing? We cannot reach a conclusion. We only reach confusion. So this strategy, so defenders will never admit that the Pythagorean theorem is a lie. They will just tell you another story. Oh, there was a Euclid, oh, there was this, oh, there was that. So this idea of telling repeated stories about others, tales, Euclid, we'll discuss all of them. But you can't discuss all of them at once. You have to start with one lie. And the first lie is that of the Pythagorean theorem. So we can't discuss all of them together. We have to, like yesterday's Indian Express, which cites Kim Plofker. The news item came, which cites Dani. I invited Dani, but he won't come. He won't come for the debate because he has no evidence. But he can issue a statement in the newspaper, and the newspaper people will believe him. And they'll believe Kim Plofker, who is in the West. That's the problem. There is no evidence, but you keep, why so much propaganda? If it doesn't matter, then forget about it, get rid of it. So there is a vested interest. The very fact that this kind of a reaction is coming out, so much is coming out in newspapers, is that somebody is very, very, very concerned about removing it. They won't tolerate its removal. So that's the issue. And the point is, all that they will say is, this Western, what does the newspaper say? This Westerner said so, that Westerner said so. It is all the time Western Shabda Praman. Never had evidence. Does the Indian Express investigate facts? Did it look at the evidence? No way. So-and-so said this, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this. They are important people according to us, so believe it. So this is a trap to discuss all lies at once. You discuss Pythagoras also, you discuss Euclid also, you discuss Thales also, you discuss Archimedes also, or whatever else. It results in utter confusion. When there is confusion, there is inaction. Because if you want to act, you have to proceed in one direction. There are so many directions to proceed. And if you are inactive, that maintains status quo. And that is precisely the idea of going on telling these 1,000 stories so that you cannot refute all of them at one time. Therefore, we have restricted it to just one statement about its truth or falsehood based on facts, not based on this chap's opinion or that chap's writing or something like that. We want to know what is the actual source it is based on. Factual source. And if there is none, we want to know that. So that is the most important thing. And otherwise, before we proceed further, admit that it is a lie, which has been there in our school text since colonialism. Explicitly admit. Then we can go on to other things. But first, we want to pin it down to just that one statement, because hundreds of statements you cannot contest at one time. It becomes impossible. All right. So today's debate is about action. We want to reach an actionable conclusion. And that is to remove falsehoods from colonial falsehoods from school texts. Starting with the Pythagorean theorem. There are many others, but we start with just one. All right, the iceberg analogy is that if you have 1,000 interconnected lies, they make for a very complex and very big light like an iceberg. But what is visible is only, 9/10 of the iceberg is underwater. So just the top part is visible. If you chop off the top part, the iceberg will float up, the other parts will come into sight, and then you attack them. So you have to proceed one by one. That's the whole idea. And There will be future debates. This is not the last debate. It's just the first one. We are willing to have debates for the entire 1 year to discuss all the other lies. That's not a problem. But one at a time. And first admit, record that it's a lie, record that there is no evidence, then proceed to the next. Otherwise, the stories, you keep jumping from one story to another and try to find some path in the midst of all those. So today's debate is just the first in a series. So please have patience about the other lies. No problem, we will deal with all of them, but not all at the same time. And again, this question everybody asks, oh, is it just about the term? If the term is removed, will the theorem remain? So will it affect the proposition? Yes, it will. Will it result in alternative geometry? It will. But we will not discuss that today, but later. Because as I said, you can't discuss everything at one time. So why not? Because let me also give you one more tweet that I made, because these tweets are very quick things to follow. So it's an error to talk of Shulva Sutra before breaking the Purva Paksh. You have to break the opponent's position. Otherwise, you have to establish that it's a lie. Then the question of alternative comes up. Otherwise, you are just floating in the air. So that is why we are first asking for evidence for Pythagoras, where he stated how he proved it, and so on. And what you will see is that the experts only jump from one lie to the next. They never come to the evidence. So that's the problem. And that is the Indian tradition of debate. You must destroy the Purva Paksh. You must demolish the Purva Paksh, the opponent's position first, before you forward your own position. So we are not going to say what we want in place of that until it is admitted that this is a lie, it must go. So that is the Uttar Paksh. Of course, it has been stated. There is a reading list on decolonization of math, and which was circulated along with the thing. There is a long list. It's about calculus, it's about Raju Ganit, it's about statistics, it's about history, philosophy of science. There are books, there are courses, there are scholarly articles, lots and lots of stuff about probability, statistics, and school geometry, and so lots of stuff is there, which we can debate. We can do it later. You cannot do everything all at once. So today is just limited to Pythagoras theorem, the term, because that's what it is about. Now, 11 persons expressed a desire to participate in this debate, but no one uploaded their contact details or a short abstract as requested. So they did not even indicate whether they are arguing for the motion or against it. Maybe they are sitting somewhere in between and, they want to talk about all sorts of things, do this, do that, partly from this side, partly from that side. That's not possible in a debate. It's an actionable thing. You have to say yes or no. And you have to be clear, nobody indicated that. So the point is there is propaganda, but no hard evidence. Lot of propaganda. Yesterday's propaganda, Indian Express. Not a single piece of hard evidence. So not for Pythagoras, not for the term theorem. And the propaganda always cites Western authority. Now, let us keep in mind, you see, any war involves propaganda. So we can't trust the West because those Western experts support that propaganda. They are not credible. How can one believe them? So you cannot believe them any more than you can believe the corrupt politician involved in land grab. And how much of land grab is the West involved in? They stole 3 continents. It is not a small piece of plot of land. It is 3 whole continents. They killed everybody, stole it. North America, South America, Australia, and enslaved African blacks. So it's not a joke. All with the talk of superiority. Why do you enslave blacks? Because they are superior. Why do you kill them? Because they are superior, and so on. And that superiority begins with a math text. Pythagoras did something superior. So that's the superiority that we want to attack. That term, Pythagorean theorem, that's what we want. However, there will be an open hour. If you still want to tell some general stories after all this long introduction, oh, we want this story, we want that story, we want this story, and so Western expert said this, and so Western expert said that. We are not going to believe it, but you want to say it, we will let you say it. Or if you have comments or suggestions for future debates, we are welcoming that. Because we will invite them at the end, but after the debate is over. After it is closed, after we pass a resolution. So, of course, the question is this a debate? Where is the opposition? So, in 2001, the UGC announced 16 university departments in Vedic astrology. The India International Center organized a debate with astrologers. So, Raja Ramanna, our nuclear chief, was there. Pushpa Bhargav was there. I was there. We were 3 people on the side of the scientists. and no astrologer showed up. So what do you do? So the point is the astrologer ran away. Just like Dani ran away from the debate. He can't come and debate. He can make statements to the press, do all sorts of things because they will believe. So they are afraid their lives would be exposed. So running away from debate also exposes the formal mathematician. So our call for debate is useful because it shows that the formal mathematician is a crown trickster. He is not willing to come and debate publicly. He will do everything behind the scenes, manipulate authority, manipulate the press, do everything, but not come and argue in a straightforward way. He is not interested in truth. He is interested in his livelihood. So that's the point we want to expose. And just as astrologer is not, astrologer is Palit Jyotish. It is not the Jyotish in the Vedanga Jyotish. They are two different things. That is timekeeping. This is prediction of the future. Likewise, formal math, which these mathematicians like Dani and so on do, it is not the same thing as normal math. It has no use. For normal math is what you use in a grocery shop. It is what you use to send a man to the moon. It is useful. But formal math is of no use. It is pure metaphysics. So that is a big problem. And that is why they are not willing to come forward, because if it is exposed publicly, they have a problem. And that is why this debate is useful. Now, what's the difference? I think it was explained that the Pythagorean term is used to assert the superiority of Greeks over all other cultures. So see, this is the 9th standard text. We find that in some civilizations like Babylon, etc., it was a very practical discipline. See, something wrong with being practical, as was the case in India. And Egyptian, what did they do? They developed some general rules. And they only used it for practical purposes, but did nothing to develop it as a theoretical science. But in Greece, some anonymous Greeks, maybe Pythagoras, maybe Euclid, maybe Thales, maybe Archimedes, maybe somebody, they use reasoning. All right. So they were interested in establishing the statement by using deductive reasoning. What it doesn't say is that they prohibited facts. Now, why should the Greeks have been interested in prohibiting facts? They were not interested. So that has all been argued out. However, the point here is that the textbook says the Greeks did something superior. And that is what we are contesting. All right. Compared to all other cultures, the Greeks did something superior. This was in black and white in the school text, current school text for class 9. And then the purported superiority of the purported Greeks, because the Greeks didn't do it, and it is not superior. So that's what we want to say. It's actually a church method of proof over, so this we have talked about. This is what they will say, that the Greeks had a superior kind of proof. Now they see they'll jump to Thales. In India, there was no clear evidence that they used proofs. So there was nothing in Mesopotamia and so on. All right, and they are central. This is all about proofs in mathematics. This extract again from the 9th standard text for mathematics. So this assertion of superiority is what we are challenging, and the assertion of its Greek origins to point out there's a lie, because if there is a lie, then the question arises, who told it and why? You can't just have a lie like that. Oh, it's just there, and we are repeating it so many times, and so many people are defending it, and we are so desperate. We are every day putting in papers, statements in newspapers, and so on. So the debate is actually a debate to reassess that colonial teaching of white Western superiority, which is still there in our text, which needs to go. And we will also discuss how this formal mathematics puts the West in an epistemically privileged position. So I repeat, this is not a debate about chronological priority. Who did it first? That's not important. All right. It is a debate about the purported superiority of a purported Greek method of proof. Both things are purported, superiority and Greek. All right. Not about who did it first, but about who did it better, because we have to do what was done, what is better, and not merely what the best West brought. That's the critical issue about the teaching of mathematics. But the starting point is just the term Pythagorean theorem. We stick to that. So it's a complex issue, and therefore we proceed only one step at a time. So the first step is to pin down the lies in our current school text. Are there any, I repeat, are there any historical facts about Pythagoras? We don't want to hear this Westerner said so, that Westerner said so. Yes, there were lots of lies. So what? Give us the facts. Give us the evidence on which they base their statement, or anybody base their statement. There is none. All right. And if we can have those facts, without the 1,000 corresponding, Western narratives of Greeks, Euclid, etc. Can you just talk of the facts? Here is a papyrus, here is this, here is this. What is your source of information? Tell us that. Don't tell us stories. But we only hear stories, never the facts. So if you don't have the facts, let us acknowledge, put it on record. There is no fact. This term is false. It has been there for so long. It's a lie. Remove it. Next question. For another day, who told that lie? So Crusading Church told the lie. Why? To slip in a method of proof by authority while saying it is a method based on reason. Because axiomatic proof is based, there are many proofs based on reason. Scientific proofs are also based on reason. But this is devoid of the empirical. And therefore it is based purely on authority. And that is why it is devoid of the empirical. The empirical facts anybody can see. So this lie was not purposeless. It helped the church to dominate. It helped the West to dominate today. And it helps the West to control knowledge, to control even scientific knowledge through the help of mathematics. And therefore, historians and philosophers, even like Kant, endlessly talked about the superiority of the Greeks over Egyptians, exactly like our school text does. And that's the lie we want to eliminate. So, of course, there are many lies about Euclid, etc. But we will talk about them. Certainly, I am very much interested. I have a book, but only after we have pinned down at least one lie, at least 5 preferably, but at least one. We start with 1, we'll go to 5 and so on. They are listed in the background note. And then we ask the question, what is the alternative? Not before that. After we are sure it's a lie, it needs to be thrown out, then of course, if it is to be thrown out, what must come in? And was Indian geometry really inferior, as I just showed you the quotation? Who found, who did it? Who compared the two systems in detail? Where and when? They just want to have it on authority because school child, if you don't write it, we'll flunk you. That's the authority that they use. All right, fear of exams. Now let me make a couple of clarifications. I have nothing against Pythagorean number mysticism. Pythagoras was a myth. But we hear about the Pythagoreans. Okay, and you can have Pythagoreans existing without Pythagoras, just as Christians can exist. Doesn't mean that Christians exist, doesn't mean that Christ exists. Okay, you cannot assume that. Now, the Egyptian Pythagorean Platonic notion of soul is very similar to the Hindu notion of Atman. Almost identical, very fine, minute differences. But Plato's religious geometry is not the immediate issue. It will become appropriate when we look at Euclid, because Euclid was appropriated by the Crusading Church, but that's a topic for another day. I have warned myself not to talk about Euclid. I will stick to that warning. And of course, there is an issue of, because it was number mysticism, they only talked of integer triples. But in Manav Shubha Sutra, you have calculation as square roots. Square roots were unknown to Greeks. They did not even have a systematic notation for fractions. And so all those things will come out that they could not have done the Pythagorean theorem in that form. It's just a blatant lie. Plato's notion of soul was also very similar, in fact, identical to the pre-Nicene notion of soul. And this link will take you to the Origen's work and De Principiis. I have got lots of quotations to show that the two notions are identical. I won't go into it here today. I have nothing against Christianity at all, early Christianity. So when I say axiomatic proof is a church invention, I am referring to the post-Nicene church, which is a political entity. And that political entity, I have a right to contest. The difference between the church and Christianity is just like the difference between Hinduism and Hindutva. All those people who contest Hindutva say, we are not contesting Hinduism. I have nothing against Christianity. I'm only talking about the church. Let's be clear about that. So opposition to a political entity is not opposition to the original religion called Christianity. So that's just a clarification. Back, because these are things which will come in a public discourse. So all these are very, very complex issues. We cannot take them up. We take them one at a time. We do it in future debates. Today's debate is restricted to the term Pythagorean theorem in our school text. And facts versus stories based on trust. What are the stories based on? Trust the West, trust the West. So, so if you don't have terms, if you don't have evidence, we remove the thing. We agree that it's a lie which is taken out, but we agree it is not to try and save the lie by telling 1,000 other stories, all of which demand trust the West, trust the West, trust the West. We don't believe that. We don't want that trust. All right. So colonialism was conolism, and a con trickster, formal mathematician, etc., operates by first gaining your trust. You don't trust him, how can he con you? So you have to trust him. And once you trust him, then he can cheat you whichever way he wants. So this trust was achieved still through colonial education, which came as 100% church education, and indoctrinated people into trusting the West. And it's done in the least expected way by teaching colonial math and declaring colonial formal math as superior, as is still done in our school texts. So the term Greek was used as a mask for the church, and the whole process starts with the term Pythagorean theorem, which we must accept as a lie and dismantle it, and without getting trapped in 1,000 stories which can be told in support. All of which stories demand trust in the West, as in the Indian Express news item. So conclusion is that no facts produced for Pythagoras or his connection to the theorem named after him, no axiomatic proof of it produced, it does not exist before 1899. And only a constant demand, trust this, trust that, listen to this story, listen to that story. There are 100 different stories which nobody can verify except proceed by trust. So let's remove that term, that lie about the term Pythagorean theorem from our school text, for it poisons the minds of our children. If I may say in summary, decolonization is about revolting against the West. We want to overthrow their hegemony. And the first step in that is stop trusting the West. All right, that's the first thing. Don't believe the West. Let us have facts. It's enough of this trust. And I think I will stop at that point. And if there are any immediate questions, we can take that. Or if Dr. Ramnathan or Marzban or where is Claude has gone. Claude would like to talk. Next.
Hello there, Dr. Raju. It's Jonathan from Melbourne, Australia. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I want to say that I agree with you 100% about the need to move away from ancient Greek mathematics in classrooms today.
I'm sorry, this is not the time to express an opinion. This is the time, if you have some specific questions, not opinions, we will give you time at the end. No, please, no opinions, no long statement.
Okay.
If you have a specific direct question.
You asked if anyone had any facts.
A question, yes, if you question right now, if you have a question because you're talking about me, you have to proceed step at a time. Don't grab the mic. Please, if you have a question to what I have said, address that. Otherwise, we go to the next speaker.
Will you accept ancient Greek references to Pythagoras before the Christian era as evidence that Pythagoras was written about within 100 or 200 years of his life?
Pythagorean theorem, not Pythagoras, not Pythagoreans. Pythagoras theorem, please produce a reference. Don't proceed with speculations, produce a reference, give us a source which talks of Pythagorean theorem. Don't proceed in a vague manner. The term is only about the Pythagorean theorem. Do you have a reference?
I was under the understanding that you were saying that Pythagoras did not exist.
Oh, all right, let us stop with that. Anybody else? Let's not get into an argument right now. Anybody else wants a question? Okay, Dr. Ramnathan, would you like to go ahead, or does Claude like to go ahead? Where is Claude? Claude?
I request that Dr. Claude goes ahead. I'll speak after him.
Yeah, okay. Claude, would you like to speak? He seems to have disappeared somewhere. The problem with Zoom. Claude, can you come on? Well, maybe you can start till Claude joins. Or would Marzban like to join, or would you, Dr. Ramnathan, maybe you can go ahead? Because he seems to have left. He may be stuck in something else since he's at home.
Okay, I was trying to convert my thoughts into a PowerPoint slide as you did.
Yeah.
I thought I will take some time.
Okay.
But I do see Dr. Claude Alvarez's name in this session. So
he's there. He may have moved away from the computer, maybe something else.
Okay. So if without the PowerPoint slide, is it okay? Can I go ahead then?
Yeah. Please.
Okay.
Perfectly all right.
Okay. So
If you
thank
can start your video, it will be good.
Sure. There is some network issue. Otherwise,
I see. Okay. Things are bandwidth.
if I am kind of sounding little hazy or sound goes, then you please let me know. I'll turn off my video.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I thank you, Dr. C.K. Raju, for having taken up this daunting task of calling for a public debate and relentlessly trying to take to the public and talk about it, and not just assert what you or what we feel as or deem appropriate, but to call for a public debate like this and engage them and come to a reasonably logical conclusion. So I thank you very much for having taken up this task. And how do I come into this picture? Of course, I have been drinking from the fountain of the knowledge fountain of people like none other than C.K. Raju and Claude Alvarez. But how do I also pitch in for this particular debate is for the fact that the position paper written from Karnataka on the specific subject knowledge of India, which is in fact a new subject introduced in this in the context of the NEP 2020. Now that had come to the public domain since April, at least to the best of my knowledge, but something triggered in the month of first week of July, I believe, that raked up a media controversy. And we felt that this is the right time in that case, because now this is media has taken up. So it's good to even more good to engage with the public for getting to the logical end of this proposition that we are making, that the Pythagorean theorem must be removed if the hard evidence for its existence is not being furnished by those who support the clause. Now, if I were to quote that, I just quote it and I'll give the reference towards the end. I quote, Indian in blood and color, but English in tastes, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. To that class, we may leave it to refine the vernacular dialects to the country to enrich those dialects with terms of science borrowed from the Western nomenclature and to render them by degrees fit vehicles for conveying knowledge to the great mass of the population. I unquote. And this is not a it's not a no-brainer to gauge or to guess from where I have taken this quotation, for this is the of the famous Macaulay's minutes, where I again repeat what Macaulay has submitted to the Parliament. He wants to have Indian in blood and color, but English in tastes, in opinions, in morals, and intellect. And I again repeat, with terms of science borrowed from the Western nomenclature and to render them by degrees fit vehicles. So what was set in role by Durden, this is from somewhere later part of the 19th century. That was the minutes of the Macaulay. And to those who are having, or those who want to have an authenticated version of this quote, I would urge them to look at the webpage of Professor Hexi Verma in IIT Kanpur. In my PowerPoint slide, I have given the web address, but I can paste it in the chat window for those of you who are interested to look at the authentic version of this minutes. I'm just pasting the link in the chat box for everyone. Yeah. Now, I would like to give a quote, one more quote, and I'll again reveal the source of this quote at the end of the quote. The quote goes like this, I quote, "The vision of the policy is to instill among the learners a deep-rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thought, but also in spirit, intellect, and deeds, as well as to develop knowledge, skills, and values and dispositions that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development, and living in global well-being, thereby reflecting a truly global citizen." I unquote. Now here there are words which are seemingly, at least to me, in dire contrast to what Macaulay had to say. That is, this quote wants to instill among the learners a deep-rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thought, but also in spirit, intellect, and deeds. So this is where, when I had the opportunity to to chair the committee to pen the position paper for knowledge of India, with all these background we had given, and why the media had got raked up, at least in my analysis or in the way that I am understanding things, we make specific recommendations towards the end of the position paper. And for those of you who would like to read the position paper in toto, although that may be a slight digression from the specific theme of the debate, with due apologies to Professor C.K. Raju, but still, to put things in perspective, I would like to share the link of the position paper also. Now, this Pythagorean allusion comes as recommendation number 21 in the position paper. And the specific, the express statement which leads to the controversy, I would like to read that, is that to become, or really, I quote, with a focus to really empower the children to become responsible citizens of a grander India in future, some of the following suggestions may be implemented. Again, repeating this recommendation number 21. And in that recommendation, we say the sentence, fostering a culture of calmly debating about so-called controversial and polarizing issues without allowing flaring up of one's emotion, along with sensitivity to another person's opinions. Encouraging an attitude of questioning and not merely accepting whatever the textbooks, in bracket, print, electronic, or social media, say as infallible truth, with a clear foundation of how knowledge generation takes place and how fake news such as Pythagoras theorem, apple falling on Newton's head, etc. are created and propagated. So this was one of the sentences in the recommendation number 21 in our position paper. And the print media seems to have taken this term, rather given a spin to this term, how fake news such as Pythagoras theorem and apple falling on Newton's head, they have twisted the spin saying that we are completely kind of calling the Pythagoras, calling Newton's thing as fake and Pythagoras theorem as fake. Although this was also the intended message, but here I would like to stress here that the whole recommendation is to empower the children and in order to debate on so-called controversial and polarizing issues, just like the debate that we are having in a very calm way, where we would like to listen to all the sides of the, all the opinions from different sides, and to encourage to develop an attitude among the students to question and not merely accept what the textbook says as infallible truth. So this is where the context comes into picture. And given that I have been following the works of Professor C.K. Raju on this topic, it would be a mere repetition of what he had to say, and that would be, I'll be stepping into his shoes. And given that I do not have a formal training in or a formal training in math, there is no point in me to repeat the arguments that Professor C.K. Raju has present or is going to present about the position on the Pythagorean theorem. I would like to conclude just by saying that I am with him in this motion to get rid of this term from the textbook if our opponents are not able to produce any hard evidence. And again, echo his statement, by hard evidence, we do not expect any kind of telltale stories about who said this or about a narrative way of telling the evidence. Just a digression towards the end, when it comes to a narration, although it may be a pedagogic strategy by the textbook writers to introduce some kind of a narration, but we would like to tell our students that, look, even during those narrations, you should not take those narrations for their 100% truth value. The example, a glaring example here is the Newton's, the episode centering around the apple falling on the Newton's head, where the first ever biographer of Newton clearly states in the 2010's New Scientist article that there is no mention about the apple falling on the Newton's head. Be that as it may, I am still giving it a benefit of doubt as a pedagogic strategy to introduce certain concept in an impressionable mind. But all that we are trying to say, at least we were advocating in the position paper, is that the students should start questioning. And coming to this, again, the context of the debate today, I repeat, I am completely supporting the side of Professor C.K. Raju, who is, and repeating, I am repeating saying that if there is no hard evidence about the Pythagorean theorem, then we should get rid of the term from our textbook. Then I'll stop what I had to share and thank once again for this wonderful opportunity.
Muted. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramanathan. That has put things in the right perspective. Now, where is Claude Alvarez gone? Claude, can you hear me? Claude is not responding. Marzban, would you like to speak?
Am I audible?
Yeah, audible.
Okay. First, I will agree with your presentation. My question will be very, very pointed, which is over there. I will agree there is a deep-seated racist, white supremacist sort of agenda, even through something which is supposed to be quote-unquote objective, like mathematics. There is deep-seated sort of racist colonial thing, which operates in creating a native elite for their own colonial governance, which is over there. I'll agree with that. My question is, two questions will be there. How does one create a counter, really factual scientific narrative, which is over here? And how is it going to be translated also in school textbooks, in which children also understand this very sort of anti-colonial, humanistic, anti-racist narrative? That's my question. Finished.
But you need to take a stand, Marzban, for the proposal.
I take a stand. I take a stand. I'll tell you. I noted. I wrote also in my thing.
Yeah, you did.
Just
announce it.
There are so many myths. There are so many myths. This whole thing, that's precisely what I'm saying. Through something innocent like mathematics, through the Pythagorean theorem, they are creating a colonial racist narrative. I completely.
Right. Thank you. So it should go.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. Claude, where is Claude gone? Marzban, your bandwidth is low. Your bandwidth is low, your voice is cracking. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Marzban Jal, Professor Marzban Jal. We would like to go on to Claude. Where is Claude?
Maybe if you could also call him on his phone.
I did. He is not picking up the phone. I called him on his phone. He is not picking up the phone. So I think he's had enough of the debate. He has got trapped in some domestic chore. I don't know what. I sent him a message. I called him on the phone. He is not picking up the phone. Let me just call him once again. So I'm calling right now. He is not picking up the phone. I don't know what has happened, what domestic crisis has occurred. So I have no other way of contacting him except through phone or through this. He's not picking up. So I think that maybe when he comes later, he can speak. At the moment, I would like to propose, as I said, there will be an open hour at the end, and I would like to propose a resolution that in favor of the motion that since there is no evidence that has been produced so far, we are only hearing talk and we are hearing threats about narratives that this might be there, that might be there, but we have no actual source of any of the questions that has been raised. Even about the existence of Pythagoras, Mr. Crabtree was saying there are some evidences. There are evidence only about Pythagoreans. Pythagoras was a myth. There are all sorts of myths. I have written about it. If you see Wikipedia, or even Wikipedia has got that idea that he's a myth. So if there is such an evidence, please produce the evidence. Please produce the actual source, not the story about it. Okay, we want the actual source. What is the evidence that you are talking about? What is the actual date from where you have got it? Don't say it is pre-Christian, because there are, what sort of, is it a papyrus? What is it? Because it's pre-Christian, it has to be a papyrus. Which papyrus are you talking about? And so on. So we want those actual sources. All right. And that's a completely different thing. We have not seen any sources so far. Nobody has submitted any evidence so far. And I'm practically sure that there is no such evidence. Therefore, I propose the motion that the term Pythagorean theorem should be removed from the school text. And well, I don't know whether there's any system of voting, but I think my co-panelists agree with me, and we would like to forward that. And I would like to now go on to the next part, which is the open hour. If there are people, because there were several participants who said they wanted to say something, and maybe they want to tell stories and they want to not stick to facts and so on and so forth. So they are welcome to articulate their views. They did not comply with our requirement that they should send in their contact details and they should send a short abstract. So we can still ask you to, you have the freedom to express yourself. Who would like to speak? This is Girish Balsubramaniam. I see his hand. So Mr. Girish Balsubramaniam, please go ahead. Marzban, could you please mute yourself?
Dr. Rajuji, thanks a lot for the opportunity. I just had a question. I mean, I don't want to articulate. I am fairly convinced about the position. But I'm just curious that when we are talking about the hard evidence, and this is like we are talking about, say, 2000, 3000 years, this type of a timeline, which again is not clear. And if it is a scientific type of a text, it is often like it accumulates. One thing comes and then maybe the next. So in that sense, if the complete thing being preserved, is it what we are actually focusing or targeting, that if that complete proof or that evidence has been preserved, then that should be brought out? I mean, I'm just curious about the hard evidence when we are sort of.
Yeah, thank you. The point is that this term is used in our school text. I think if you watched my presentation, to assert the superiority of some Greeks, of their way of doing mathematics, right? Now, if that is so, we would like to know who this Pythagoras was. By hard evidence, we mean what is your first source of information? So you do hear about Pythagoreans, like people will say there is a rumor, or people will talk about Pythagoreans, and they were Neoplatonists. So I'm not denying the existence of Pythagoreans who said that, Pythagoras is their chief and who attributed everything to him and so on and so forth. So we are not talking about that. That is not hard evidence. We want that the source of your information should be identified. Who first called it Pythagorean theorem? And is there any connection of Pythagoras to the theorem? And if there is a connection, did he give a proof? If he gave a proof, what is that proof? And is it an axiomatic proof? In fact, because this text says Greeks did something, is there any axiomatic proof given by any Greek prior to Hilbert's axiomatic proof in 1899? All right. So we are saying the whole thing is a complete fraud. And it's a complete fraud. The idea of asserting the superiority of Greeks, and through the superiority of Greeks to talk about the superiority of whites, of Westerners, and so on. And that is what we want to attack by saying that they have developed a certain superior type of mathematics, which is being taught. And that is a wrong thing to do. And so we are starting one step at a time, because we can't attack all those lives, right? So therefore, we are asking for if there is evidence for Pythagorean theorem. Pythagoras, what evidence? So we want the actual source. Don't give us the story. We only hear the story. What is the source of information? Please display it, right? And that source cannot be just Western authority. We want the actual source that is being used by that Western authority. And we want to know how it's connected to that proposition, because as I have said in the background note, Pythagoreans were religious people. It was a religious cult. And in this religious cult, they had a mystical idea of geometry as a means of arousing the soul. And that was also Plato's idea. And so we want the actual source of whether he was not interested in providing theorems which are axiomatic proofs, which are disjoint from the empirical and so on. So we'll come to all those issues. But first thing we want, the history part. Is there a Pythagoras? How does he connect to the theorem? And if he gave a proof, where is that proof? If it is not, why do you call it Pythagorean theorem? Let's get rid of it because there is an assertion of superiority underlying it. Why we should do it? Because the guy showed it, it is there in our school text. And that is what is dangerous, right? So I hope I make that clear. And that is why we are insisting on hard evidence, because we never get hard evidence. We only say such and such expert, that such and such experts. We don't believe those experts. They have been lying for so long. So we just don't believe them. So please give us facts. If the expert is coming, call him for discussion. Let him produce the evidence. What is the source on which he bases himself? Right? And there are no original Greek sources like that. So all the Greek sources are Byzantine Greek sources. And then you say, oh, this is placed, Ptolemy was in the 2nd century. Actual source is 12th century, backdated to by 10th centuries and so on. We don't want that. We want to know the actual source, and we want to know what is your estimated date. And then we want to compare it with the things which are present there and so on and so forth. Now, nobody is coming forward with that. They're just coming forward with stories. I hope that is clear.
Yes, please. That summarizes that. Was quite clear.
Yeah. Anyway, Ramnathan wants to speak.
Sir, if I may just add to your response to Girish ji, in the link that I had shared, on that plato.stanford.edu, I just would like to read that one of the sentences from there, where it says the following. There is also no mention of Pythagoras' work in geometry or of the Pythagoras theorem in the early evidence. Somebody called Lyserchus comments that, within quotes, what he said to his associates, no one can say reliably, but then identifies 4 doctrines that became well known: that the soul is immortal, that it transmigrates into other kind of animals, so on and so forth. So here, by hard evidence, what Professor C.K. Raju is trying to say, or what we are all trying to say through this, is the fact that where did the term Pythagorean theorem originate? In the presentation also, Professor C.K. Raju made it clear that before Hilbert, can we cite any evidence of somebody using Pythagoras theorem, the term Pythagoras theorem itself?
No,
So
the axiomatic proof. Axiomatic proof.
Axiomatic proof. The Western scholars themselves
term is there in the quadrivium also. Axiomatic proof is not there.
Axiomatic proof is not.
Axiomatic proof is not there.
Some of them, even there are a lot of debates in the Western scholarly medium where these things are often raised, and it is not a settled issue. Our contention is that our textbook presents it as a settled issue and would like to ask children to believe in that. That is what we are contesting. That's all I had to say.
Yeah. Anybody else? I don't see any hands. Anybody wants to speak? This is open hour, so if you don't want to stick very tightly to evidence, etc., you are welcome to speak about other things also. What, nobody? We have completely stunned people into silence on the term. Please, anybody? Yeah, somebody here. Yeah, Mr. No, I'm not moving. Okay.
Maybe it's a good idea to request them to first identify themselves.
I'm asking them to unmute.
And identify themselves also. So that
please identify yourself before you speak. That would be a good idea. Yes.
Namaste. My name is Pravar Obhan.
Okay.
I love mathematics in school. After that, I haven't practiced it. And I'm for the idea that, yes, authentic knowledge should be shared with authentic proof and all that. Just from hearing all this, I would request, because there are many good points. As you have said, from before 1850, there's no proof of the term Pythagoras theorem.
No axiomatic proof. No axiomatic proof of Pythagoras theorem before 1899.
Okay, now I don't understand what is axiomatic. I'm sorry. So in a layman's language, right now I think we have. Yes,
the
sure.
proof that existed, for example, in India, involved empirical elements that you are able to see something happening. Whereas the NCERT text will explain that in an axiomatic proof, you must beware of what you see. So the proof must not include any empirical elements. It must be completely diverse from the empirical. So that is the meaning issue. You must not trust what you see. You must trust some Westerner who has formulated some axiom which is metaphysical, which cannot be tested. All right, that's what an axiomatic proof is. That's the distinction. We'll discuss it. It is discussed in my videos. Claude, you are back.
Do you want tea?
Yeah, we
These
want.
fellows saying they're not but lunch. They would like to work as hard as possible, clear up whatever we tell them, and they would like to go early.
Yeah, you would like to go ahead, Mr. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. You are under the name of P.O.
Yeah, my name is Pravar Obhan.
Yeah. So would you like to speak?
Yes. If what is coming to my mind at this moment is we are only now 17 or 19 people,
Yeah.
and if we want to spread this and correct this, according to me, the way forward would be to make simple, like someone was saying before that I'm making another presentation. So just like how you said, first we have to negate what is being offered in the course. So if you just make a small presentation with these things, that where is the axiomatic proof before this person in the 18th century has said it, there is no proof, and things like that, then we can put it up on social media.
It is there. It is there already. It is there.
Okay. So if you would share those links, then
Sure.
I would also put it up, and we can keep discussing regularly. And
Sure. See, social media is not as powerful as the experts. It is not as powerful as the actual newspaper media.
Correct. So experts, I have no idea, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Claude, are you there? I heard your voice sometime back. Would you like to say anything? Claude is dodging. Okay. Anybody else wants to say anything?
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, Claude. Yeah, very good. Please.
You are referring to me by name. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
I exist compared to
Thank you.
Pythagoras.
I'm very relieved to find that you exist, unlike Pythagoras.
But I'm going back to Descartes because I think, therefore I exist. Therefore, because of the theorem.
Please, can you start your video?
What video? Oh, I'm not on video as yet. Okay. I'll start my video. Yes.
So could you please make a statement?
Yeah, my revelation with hanging out for several years in the doubtful company of Professor C.K. Raju has been that he upset one of my most, just like many people have this Pythagorean theorem business in their heads. I have been brought up to generally in that tradition that we have philosophy and we have science. And science is always based on fact because you have Karl Popper and the falsification theory. And you don't falsify things in theory. You got to falsify them in practice. When some event must take place which is not fitting into the theory, and then your theory is falsified. Before that, it was a question of verification, but then they changed it from verification to falsification, which is a good thing in any case. And that was the reason why most people who went to the education system accepted the idea that what we call modern science was superior to whatever had been done in most of the other cultures, is because they had a method by which they were able to distinguish fact from philosophy or science from theology. And the main thing was theology, of course. And of course, many things about tradition also, that, if something could not be, if it was too unique, it was too individual, it couldn't be, you couldn't draw some theory out of it and you couldn't verify it, then its value for science was very bad, was very marginal. But more important, this was how science has progressed, and why we did not progress was because we didn't have an identical tradition of verification or falsification. Now, even there, Professor Raju brought up the idea of this ancient guy from India. Remember Raju, who was asked to prove whether the human being has got a soul. What was that example that he gave us? That he put all these bodies, people in.
Yeah. That is Payasi Sutta.
Payasi
Yes. Sutta of the Digha Nikaya in the Buddhist canonical text. Digha Nikaya is the Buddhist canonical text. So he tries all these 30 experiments with dead people to falsify the existence of the soul empirically.
Yes, I'm saying so. I mean that again, you are brought up in that tradition that Max Muller and Vedant and all these other things. That is all This is all. Forget about it being Maya or whatever. But the fact is that you can distinguish everything that every other civilization did because of science and scientific methodology. And I know that 30, 40 years we spent on scientific methodology, studying Karl Popper and a whole, whole list of Western philosophers. And then one day, Raju tells me that, but this is all wrong. I said, how is it all wrong? He says that actually, Pythagoras' theorem is a classic proof that they don't expect you to go to the empirical. I mean, the empirical is actually devalued in terms of proof and evidence. And, that is a sort of an earthquake for you, because once that earthquake takes place, then, and you see it being done, you see it happening, then a lot of things make sense, including the whole idea of these so-called laws of science, that there's this law of motion, there's this law of this, and then you figure out how can an anthropocentric term like law, which deals with human beings and the way in which they codify their internal norms into a set of practices which everybody is expected to believe, how does that word law now become a term which governs the movement of everything in the universe? And that also in an inexorable way up to infinity. So then you begin to think, okay, now even the laws of physics are in that sense temporal, and they are not, you cannot expect them to because they are all projections. And if you look at Kant and you look at Thomas Aquinas and you look at all the Western philosophers, the entire concept of having an eternal God, this notion of eternity, of having no end and no beginning. I mean, you have shown how some of these Hawkins and all these fellows have, ultimately through the whole doctrine, discussion on singularity and so on, they've tried their level best because they're still in that fix of beginning and end. And they're still trying to figure out how something can be outside the beginning and the end. So I'm grateful for Raju, and I actually was very interested in this notion, because now forget about the central government and NCRT. We find that the Karnataka government is suddenly under the garb of, because they are also infused with Hindutva. And one of the things that I really profoundly am apprehensive about Hindutva is the fact is that very extraordinary ideas in mathematics, geography, algebra, the sciences, astronomy, etc. All these things are going to go into the gutter of opinion only because they are going to be promoted by Hindutva's. That is our real problem. I mean, how do we extricate this debate that Raju has inaugurated with so much aplomb for over the past couple of, at least the last 2 decades? How do we extricate it from this type of discussion that is going on? Now, I'm not saying that there is no basis. I remember we had a discussion on this chance statement that was made by the Prime Minister when he became the Prime Minister about Ganesha and plastic surgery and so on. Now, that is a very classic example where any educated person in this country will laugh if you are told that Indians had anything to do with plastic surgery, because plastic is plastic. It's supposed to be understood as something, a modern invention, and all things, this has never been done before by any other culture. It's a completely modern medical science and all that sort of thing. And then my own doctoral dissertation, a whole segment of it was based on the transmission of plastic surgery, that is right, the art of rhinoplasty, to Italy and to the UK and to the US and so on, and how it took place, and what was the work on plastic surgery that was taking place in India, which was documented by the members of the Royal Society of Surgeons and Physicians from England and so on, and how that became the basis for the entire rhinoplastic tradition in the West. And then from rhinoplasty, of course, from just reconstructing the nose, how it became a more generalized tradition. But if you talk about that today, and if Mr. Modi talks about it today, it becomes a laughable item. Because the entire educated class is brought up to believe that this is absurd, that this sort of a thing cannot be accepted at all. And I remember talking to a group of 600 students at Andhra University, and I asked how many of them had heard about the origins of plastic surgery in India and its practice through the centuries, and only 4 put up their hands. And you can assume that more than 596 people had not heard of it at all. And they had gone through an education system, and these were all graduates and postgraduates. But they were willing to laugh the moment you talked about plastic surgery in India. So I'm talking about that relationship which bothers me, because whatever Professor Raju is talking about, and whatever many others are talking about, in utter seriousness, because we are very conscious that there is nothing deficient in Indian thinking or Indian practice or Indian tradition compared to the rest of the world. Whether it's superior or not, that is irrelevant. Because it's the thing, does it work? Does it help our farmers? Does it help people in navigation? Does it help, the way we calculate and all those sort of things? It's a functional civilization. And are we good or are we deficient? Do we have brains which don't understand mathematics, or we have to have Vedic mathematics? Or it's all become such a jumble because of the wrong people getting into these discussions. And that's why I'm very glad that Professor Raju said, look, let's restrict it, not only in terms of people who participate, but also in terms of the subject, because otherwise we get a lot of noise, unnecessary noise, and the discussion tends to sometimes go into irreverent areas. So in this sense, I'm extremely grateful for this, and I really, but for not having enough time, I would certainly, and I've been with him for many years, trying to get people to think about it and not offhand say, no, what you're talking about is really absurd. And when you look at these textbooks like the NCERT, 9th standard, 10th standard, and you really want to burn them, because you say, what sort of a man are you? You want to burn books? That was all the, that was a long period in history when people burn books. Where I said, now, what other response do we have? Because those books really need to be burnt. And here is the Karnataka government now, and the central government and NCERT promoting this type of garbage as modern education for every youngster in India to learn about. And somebody has to take serious objection. But it has to be a group of very recognized scholars who can set themselves up on their own. They don't need to agree among themselves on everything, but on basics they could agree that we need to examine all the basic concepts that are there in the school system, particularly the scientific concepts, because the scientific segment has been used to override all the others, because that is the Trojan horse. That comes in first, saying that this is something which you don't have. Because of that, we bring in our education system. Because of that, we cancel the Persian universities. Because of that, we cancel Sanskrit and everything, because none of this is science. What we have got is science, and this is what we are going to bring you as a white man's burden. And then we lap it up, and M.N. Roy and all these people, they all wrap it up till the end. And the Arya Samaj wraps it up, and everybody wraps it up. And then in the end, we become clones, and we begin repeating all the stuff which nobody in his right mind, having a proper analysis of these things, would ever want to propagate. So I'm glad for this discussion. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Of course, some of it I think could have been shortened because Professor Raju, tends to repeat sometimes. He kept, I think, at least 5 slides. You kept on repeating that, no, we are going to go back only to this one subject. We are going to go back only to one subject. I think it's not necessary because you could spend your time on more valuable things that we would like to hear. Well, that's what I would like to say at the moment as a response to this. Of course, I'm very much a proponent of the motion, and I would certainly promote it in whatever way I can and under my signature. And but I would also, as a group, I think all the members of the group would also agree that we need to use a slightly different language for this. Because our tradition of the Purva Paksh doesn't allow us to think that the other person doesn't have any idea. As you said, we have got to demolish first, and that's how we came to know over the Charvaks, and that's how we came to know over the others, because you have to disclose their position fairly. So I would suggest let us try and disclose the Pythagorean theorem fairly. What exactly it is, what it is meant to be, what it tries to convey, how it could not have conveyed what it is claimed to convey, because the real, proof came only with Hilbert, and that also in the 19th century. So we need to build up a very clear, undisputed formulation of the Pythagorean theorem, what it is claimed to be, where it originated, whether Pythagoras could have been associated with it or whatever, very fairly, and then begin to repeat it. Because that is one of the strongest points that we have as far as Indian thinking tradition is concerned, the Purva Paksha tradition, which we cannot give up. And even with the Hindutva guys, this is the only way to deal with them, and the only way to deal with all the others is to ask them first, please fairly sum up. I don't like the idea, that's why I use the word historical fiction. I don't like the idea of deeming everything a lie, because we need to show that it is a lie first. And we need to, for that, we need to show what exactly are people meaning when they say Pythagorean theorem. Because, as Pythagorean theorem, people may mean many things. It's not just geography or axioms or whatever. They may mean many other things in fact. They may be a representative or a symbol of the Greeks and so on. So there are lots of things go on in people's head. But we need to put it in a proper framework as a fair thing. Then give it to people who believe in Pythagoras and Pythagorean theorem and say, is this a fair representation of what you are saying? And then we are now telling you, we would like to please listen to what we have to say, because what you are saying here has got 10 different points. Now let's take these 10 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we show how there is no proof from their own sources. Like Professor Ramanathan, we don't need to, we can show from their own sources that there is nothing reliable, we said, and so on. And said, now do you really think that this matter should be examined or not? And then we move forward, because then it means that somebody is completely brainwashed, is indoctrinated, and whether he stays in India or stays in some Western society, it makes no difference for him, because actually he should go to live in the West, and because he'll be more comfortable there rather than living here, and being hospitable to the ideas that came out from this area. So that's my proposal to you. If you can do it, I know you find it very difficult to do that, though you promote Purva Paksha in all your writings. But when it comes to practicing it yourself, you have to do it, and you have to do it. I would suggest you do it as an experiment. Take the 10 major elements of the Pythagorean theorem, from the physical character of Pythagoras, even what he looked like, what are the Western sources here, what are the other elements, association with the theorem, etc. And then let us see how we can write 10 refutations of those points. Then it becomes a Purva Paksha argument, and it's very difficult that any Westerner can refute what we are trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Claude. Thank you very much for that suggestion. It's going to take a lot of work. Is there anybody else who wants to say something? Anybody else? This is open house. You want to say something? Anybody else? I don't see any hand. Please raise your hand or message in the chat box. Yes, please.
Hi. So,
Yeah.
thanks, Prof. Raju. This is Sanjeev
Yeah.
Solanki.
Yeah.
I'm from software engineering background. I do a lot of work on privacy and cryptography. So my interest in this domain is mainly because of you. I have seen some of your lectures on YouTube, and then started to understand the gap. There has always been there because we were educated in India, so educated basically in CBSE system, and what we learn is it's after listening to you is turning out to be mostly wrong, and this brings back the questions in two ways. So the first is what we learned. It's not that it's totally wrong. It works in a way because of standardization. If we look at the global scenario, all the maths that we use, it's pretty much standard. And wherever we go, whether in India or in US or in other parts of the world, it's everyone understands because of this standardization issue. But the thing is, standard has a good point from the organization perspective or from engineering perspective because everyone can follow, and that makes life easier for a lot of people. The thing is, if anything goes wrong with it, because of the lack of diversification, there is no second perspective or third perspective, and which is completely missing from current global education system. So when I saw your lectures, then I realized you are picking up something from deep old times, and the ideas behind creating math was different from the way we perceive or understand today, and it makes perfect sense to have the re-understanding of what exactly the understanding behind when the idea of numbers, idea of positive or negative numbers, idea of multiplications or calculus or infinite series created and how they were used in the early days. And that brings the fresh perspective into math, especially in the young minds. And so the initiative that you have started, it is so cool. And I think it needs to be continue to be pushed forward. And so I don't know how can I be contributive, but yeah, I really appreciate these efforts, and I'd be happy to be part of it in one way or another. And definitely support this idea of diversification. Basically, at least two-pronged approach that we should understand how it was done 1,000, 2,000, or 5,000 years back, and very modern thing. So these two should be essential for any kid's curriculum, education curriculum. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Please raise your hand or chat box.
I hope it's okay, Raju, that now you can.
That's it. So shall we?
You can sum it up and finish. Yes, we can.
Yeah, shall we close the meeting in that case?
Yes, yes.
Sir, if I may add.
Yeah, somebody wants. Yeah.
Dr. Ramanathan here.
Yeah.
Dr. Musban Jal had actually opened his remark by raising a question, and I believe we have not answered that yet. So is it okay because if I understood his question well,
sorry, I don't recollect his speech. What was the question you're talking about?
Either Dr. Jal can repeat, or I can, the way I understood it is, he's all concerned about how to get this into the textbook level. If I have understood sir well, or sir can again and ask a question. I felt that was remaining unanswered. So,
Mazban, do you have something to say? He has probably left the.
He has left.
He's left the system, only his
No,
image
he's
is
there.
there. So why don't you repeat what you think he said? That is all right. We'll check the recording and find out. For the time being, please go on that basis of what you understood.
What I understood is he is interested to know, okay, all this debate is fine, and I believe he's also with the motion, with the proposition.
Yeah.
But then his main concern is now how to get into the textbook. So for that, the simple term is first to get rid of this Pythagorean term.
That's the first step.
If you may deliberate more on that, we can close with that remark perhaps.
We have to get rid of it first, and then there is the question of what you have to introduce in its place. So, because before you get rid of it, there will be lots of other questions about Euclid, about this, about standardization, as he raised, that, this is how it is done in the US, or this is how it is done globally. Those issues will all arise, and we will address all of them. But the first question is, if there is no connection of Pythagoras, then do we get rid of him? And that's what this motion is for. I think there is an agreement, everybody except for one person, I think Jonathan Crabtree, he has left. He has put some story that Cicero did something or whatever, and Pythagoreans is not the same as Pythagoras. I've been emphasizing that. And Dr. Ramanathan, you want to say something more?
Yeah, I just wanted to in the fear of your words getting misrepresented or mistwisted, I just wanted to add some more to it. By the fact that we are asking for this Pythagorean term to be removed from the textbook, we are not against the relationship that in a right angle triangle, the hypotenuse square is. So that there may be some in the audience who may think that we are kind of negating that, or we are standing against that.
I don't think anybody thinks that. But yes, the understanding, because the question that I marginally pointed to is that if you look at the Manav Shulba Sutra, it is not a square plus b square equal to c square. It is c equal to square root of a square plus b square. And the moment you bring in the square root, you see it becomes something approximate. And the Shulba Sutra has the term savishesh. So it becomes a Pythagorean calculation and not a theorem. It's not an eternal truth. It's a calculation. It's an approximate calculation. And that is very important because you can't apply the theorem anywhere in terms of exactitude. It is not exactly true anywhere in the world, not on the surface of the earth, not in space, because surface of the earth is curved, space also is curved. So it becomes, it is not part of reality. So the claim of exactitude, will come to all those issues because there is a huge, number of issues. And unless we proceed step at a time, we will just get lost. That is why we are just looking in this debate to question the idea of Pythagoras. And yes, the proposition will be understood differently in terms of Rajju Ganit. Yes, please. You want to say something, Dr. Ramanathan?
No, it's not me, sir.
It's somebody else.
Ramachandra.
It is Ramchandra. I'm sorry. You want to say, please, Dr. Ramchandra? MS Ramchandra. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Professor. My name is Ramchandra. I'm speaking from Bangalore.
Okay.
Hope I'm audible.
Yeah, audible.
Yeah, I do share. Basically, I'm a physics teacher, which is was teaching 11th and 12th standard students, printed by CBSE, famous NCERT textbooks, which have been targeted at this particular time. And also, me and Sanjeev Solanki happen to be from the same campus. We share the same experience of learning. And we also happen to share the same kind of doubtful group, what Mr. Klotz, he mentioned, but independently. But I would like to make a small statement here that it's not only the Pythagoras theorem which needs to be a little bit of upgraded or whatever that you would like to term it as. I think majority of the signs, as we keep discussing about your functional differential equations and other things, independently, we had a lot of doubts about Newton's laws and quantum mechanics or quantum propositions and many other aspects where mathematics are so involved that they are quite far away from the practical aspects. And majority of the things which I strongly believe that it has been borrowed from Indian philosophies. And I strongly feel like would like to suggest this group, if those who are interested, whomsoever it concerns. Vaisheshika is one thing probably which sometimes we need to peep in, so that we get more ideas about how the things are. The science was developed earlier in India, and definitely, I mean, as I definitely, I'm in a strong support to your proposition of erasing Pythagorean name there, or what that proposition, whatever that has been printed, because I encounter a lot of difficulties in convincing the students about mathematics, which nowadays, I mean, like, of course, we in convincing the physics for a particular examination or entrance examination, but practically we are facing a lot of difficulty. But we just hide it under the carpet. That's the reality. As rightly everybody is supporting, I'm also in support with you in whatever the magnitude that possible. I would like to contribute from my side as small. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We would definitely like to take it forward. All that I wanted to say was that if we are talking about Newton's laws and so on, we do intend to talk about it, because the issue of Newton also came up in the press. But we can't simultaneously talk about everything. We just go one step at a time. I emphasize that. God says that you repeat yourself. I do, but I repeat myself because the message should get across. That's all. That's the only reason. Yeah, so we will do that, but one step at a time. Today's thing is limited to Pythagorean theorem, Pythagorean theorem. Yes, Mr. Saurabh Grover, would you like to go ahead? Please speak.
नमस्ते सर.
नमस्ते.
सर मैं हिंदी में बोल सकता हूँ?
हाँ बिल्कुल हिंदी में बोले, लेकिन जरा वीडियो चालू कर दीजिए प्लीज.
जरूर. नमस्ते सर.
जी नमस्ते.
सर मेरा प्रश्न ये है, मैं आपको काफी समय से फॉलो करता हूँ ट्विटर पे और इंटरनेट पे. मैं आपके सारे वीडियोस देख चुका हूँ. मैं पेशे से इंजीनियर हूँ और एम्स में JRF हूँ. सर मेरा ये आपसे प्रश्न है कि आपको क्या चीज रोकती है एक संगठन बनाने से, जैसे कि कोई एक स्पेसिफिक इंस्टीट्यूट जो कि लाइक माइंडेड लोगों को ले और पब्लिश करे आपका जो काम है उसको, और हम अपने आर्ग्यूमेंट्स को इंस्टीट्यूट से डायरेक्टली डिबेट करके चैलेंज करें और इसके बारे में वीडियोस बनाएं और डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज बनाएं.
तो देखिए, जहां तक पब्लिकेशन की बात है, सब कुछ जो मैं कह रहा हूं वो तो छापा हुआ है. अच्छा, जहां तक ग्रुप की बात है, देखिए मैं वाकई में पॉलिटिकल एक्टिविस्ट नहीं हूं. मैं तो इसमें घुस गया क्योंकि ये जो चीजें हो रही हैं वो बर्दाश्त नहीं हो रही, इसलिए घुस गया हूं. तो मैं तो पेशे से बस पढ़ने लिखने का काम करता हूं. तो ये जो पॉलिटिकल एक्टिविटी है, किसी और को ऑर्गेनाइज करना पड़ेगा. उसमें मैं आपका सहयोग दे सकता हूं, आ सकता हूं, पॉइंट्स कर सकता हूं, लेकिन ये पॉलिटिकल एक्टिविटी आपको करना पड़ेगा. ग्रुप बना के इस बात को फैलाना, ये अगर कोई और करेगा तो अच्छी बात है. वैसे भी मैं बुढ़ा हो गया हूं, आप लोग यंग लोग हो, आप करो, ये आपके लिए है. मैं आपको सलाह दे सकता हूं, आपको ज्ञान जितना मेरे पास है वो आपके साथ शेयर कर सकता हूं, लेकिन ये पॉलिटिकल काम तो आप ही को करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि आपकी जिंदगी है, आपके बच्चों की जिंदगी इसमें है. तो ये मेरे से सब एक्सपेक्ट मत करिए. मैंने तो ये सब चालू इतना तक किया, अब आप उसको आगे बढ़ाइए. सब कुछ मैं नहीं कर सकता, मैं कितने दिन तक जीऊंगा क्या मालूम मेरे को. तो ये काम आप ही को करना है. तो मेरे से मत सवाल पूछिए, अपने आप से सवाल पूछिए.
सर इसमें एक प्रश्न ये है कि आपका जो कल्चरल फाउंडेशन ऑफ मैथमेटिक्स या 11 पिक्चर्स ऑफ टाइम, मैंने ये बुक्स पढ़ी हैं, तो जो आपकी इसमें एक्सपर्टीज है वो कोई और नहीं रखता. मैंने और भी डिबेट्स देखी हैं, वहां पे आपसे कोई ऐसे प्रश्न भी नहीं पूछ पाता जो आपको मुश्किल में डालें. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि अगर आप किसी चीज ऐसा कोई इंस्टीट्यूट हेड करते हैं, जिस प्रकार से राजीव मल्होत्रा जी ने किया इन्फिनिटी फाउंडेशन बना के, और उन्होंने एक सिस्टमैटिक वे में और स्कॉलर्स भी रखे, तो आपके बाद आपकी जो थीसिस हैं इसके लिए स्ट्रांगली फॉरवर्ड रखने वाले ऐसे कौन लोग हैं, या फिर आप उनको तो आप संगठित कर सकते हैं. ये मेरा प्रश्न था. और उसमें फिर हम जैसे पार्ट टाइम लोग जोड़ के उसमें कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज बना सकते हैं या कुछ अपनी तरफ से मॉनेटरीली कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं.
अब देखिए, ये संगठन बनाने का काम मैं कह चुका हूं कि ये मेरे से मुझे करना मुश्किल है, संगठन की बात है
जी,
ना।
जी।
मैं ये बुद्धिजीवी जिसको बोलते हैं, बहुत ही पेजोरेटिव टर्म है तो मैं संगठन बनाने का एक काम में नहीं हूँ ये अभी, क्योंकि ये जो अखबार में आया ये बिल्कुल मेरे से बर्दाश्त नहीं हुआ कि इस तरह का झूठ फैलाया जा रहा है, इसलिए मैंने कहा कि कुछ करूंगा। तो आप क्यों नहीं संगठन बनाते? मैं आपका साथ देने को तैयार हूँ, लेकिन ये संगठन बनाने का काम ये लोग करता था किसी जमाने में, लेकिन अभी नहीं कर सकता। मैं तो घर के बाहर जाना है भी मेरे को काफी तकलीफ हो जाती है। तो ये काम आप करें, ये मेरे से, मुझे मत कहें बनाने के लिए या करने के लिए, ये काम आप करें। और उसके लिए चंदा इकट्ठा करना है वो आप करें, आप उसका मैनेजमेंट देखें, आप उसको करें। मैं खाली आपका सहयोग कर सकता हूँ, आपको बता सकता हूँ कि इस डायरेक्शन में करना है, इस डायरेक्शन में करना है, यानी आपको सलाह दे सकता हूँ, चाहे आप उसको माने चाहे ना माने, ठीक है ना। तो ये संगठन बनाना और इस पे सिस्टमैटिकली फैलाना ये आपका काम है,
सर
युवा
मैं
लोगों का काम है।
और मैं काफी सारे, मैं भी एक मैथमेटिकल हिस्ट्री पढ़ने का शौक रखता हूँ, एमेचर हूँ, और मेरे काफी सारे फ्रेंड्स हैं जो आपके फैन हैं। तो मैं आपसे जरूर इस बारे में कांटेक्ट करना चाहूंगा। एटलीस्ट हम यहाँ पर एक इसकी अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करना चाहते हैं दिल्ली में, कुछ करना।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
तो सर कैसे आपसे कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं?
मेरे को ईमेल भेज दें।
ओके सर, जी जरूर। नमस्ते।
ठीक है, नमस्ते। Any other questions? Any other questions, comments? So if nothing, then I think we would like to close this. It is actually scheduled to go on for a little longer, but since there are no, I think
Girish wants to ask something.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
No, sir, just a comment. I mean, I had volunteered to be a spectator to this particular debate, and although I have also been keenly following your work and in this particular area, so even while I was joining this particular debate, I had a skepticism. So I would like to quote Shakespeare, that a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So I was like skeptical in one term. Whether it is called Pythagorean theorem or anything else, how it should matter, because the empirics is valid, because we are concerned, and in real life that is what is going to be important for us. But I am now also more convinced that because of the inherent problem of perpetrating the superiority, or that inducing the inferiority in the students, I think this is a problematic term, and we have to be cognizant of it, and we have to take all possible steps to sort of ensure that it is actually getting removed. So I mean, this was one comment that I thought I will sort of submit, that I was skeptical before joining, that how will the name really matter, but I am now more convinced that why it is really important for us to address this, and of course, as you said, it is one step at a time.
Oh, thank you, but it does make it. Yeah. It does make a difference, because I mentioned it here, but it has not perhaps gotten across. If you look at, just now I mentioned it, if you look at the Manav Shulva Sutra, it says, ayamam gunam vistaram vistarentu samasya vargamulam yattat karna tadvido vidu. So it is about the square root, vargamulam. It does not say a square plus b square equal to c square. It says c equal to square root of a square plus b square. What difference does it make? I have written several articles on this. The difference is that square roots are inexact. So if you take the unit square, if you take its diagonal, it's in the context of a rectangle and its diagonal, not a right angle triangle. Now, when you take it as inexact, the very word for square root of 2, if you have the unit square, the diagonal will be square root of 2. And it's inexactitude, therefore the Shulva Sutra will call it Savishesh. Now this is fundamentally different from the claim that a theorem is eternal truth or that it is exact. So there's a fundamental change in the philosophy of mathematics. But these are all complex issues. Let us first at least sort out the first step of terminology, that somebody has told a lie to us, and maintain that lie, and then ask why is that lie there, and then when we remove it, there will be a host of other objections. Okay, Pythagoras didn't exist, Euclid existed. All right, that's the next thing that will come. and then the question about Newton, and so on. So we go to them, all of them, one step at a time. So after Pythagoras, we take up Euclid, or we take up Newton, and so on, and then finally come to the Uttar Paksh, that this is what we want to say, that it is some inexactitude involved, it's a calculation, not a theorem, and so on. All right? I hope that makes sense. Please take a look. There is an article in Journal of Black Studies. There is an article in Arumarka, Euclid Must Fall, Part 2. And there are several articles on Medium, Racism in the Math Classroom, which are referred to in the decolonization list. And there you will find the issue about these things. Yes, Mr. Naredi, would you like to speak something?
Before Mr. Naredi begins, I also wanted to respond to the statement made by Girish. Just wanted to thank him because he frankly admitted that before coming to the debate, he was skeptic whether just the removal of the term would it make any sense or not. But we have been at least successful in communicating to him that it is not just about the term, but the kind of deep, the sense of racism that is being perpetrated in this line. So I thank him for frankly admitting that.
Yes, sir, this is Ashish.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment. I've been following your articles, read some of your books. Even Is Science Western in Origin? And when we read that, the kind of feeling and the awakening that we have, I could perhaps, describe it with the example of Karna, that he grows up his entire life believing himself to be Sudputra without the pejorative connotations, and that he is eternally indebted to Duryodhana, and before he goes to fight his biggest war, he is told that he is the eldest of the Pandavas, someone who he's grown hating and wanting to defeat. So that's a big revelation. It kind of shakes up the foundations of what we've come to believe. And once anybody looks at the depth and the detail of your research, the work that you've done, I'm very convinced that they will see light. And how soon that will be, I don't know. How late that will be, I don't know. But at least having gone through in some detail, I'm convinced of the fact that more and more people will continue to see the truth and the light of your work. I would, of course, like to help and contribute in whichever manner that I can. I'm not sure in what way we can do it right now, because I'm still trying to understand and get more mastery of the subject of your research. Also going through your Raju Ganit textbook, I did start going through it. Maybe once I've done that, I'm also trying to put in, my thoughts in place in terms of how well we can spread it across. But over a period of time, I'm sure this will spread, and I'll see what best we can do. And this has also been the feeling of some others with whom I've shared your work, and they themselves, at first, everybody just negates it, they laugh it off. But once they see the details of it, they themselves are like, boss, kuch to hai isme. There is some truth in it, and that's when the journey starts. So I don't know what I'll be able to do, but I will be at it. And I'll try and figure out how best, and I'll be able to contribute to this class. But I just wanted to send out a word of gratitude to you, also to Claude, who's there, because his works on Dharampal and the books that he's released with that again was something eye-opening to me. I did go through the entire Beautiful Tree book. I'm in the process of going other books as well. So with just a word of thanks and gratitude to you and everybody else who's associated with doing this research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I see two hands. One is Mr. Murli wants to say. Mr. Ramchandran has spoken earlier. So Mr. Murli, okay, he has already unmuted. Please go ahead. Murli Venugopal.
Good afternoon, sir. First of all, I'm with you. I want to say that I'm with your motion. I completely agree with what you're saying. I've been following your work for the last 10 to 15 years. Actually, I've also read your book, The 11 Pictures of Time, The Western in Origin, The Science Western in Origin, Euclid and Jesus, a couple of books. And basically, to spread most of the time, what I'm doing is I'm trying to spread your work as such, because there are people at various levels of consciousness in this country. Not everybody understands the same language. For example, when I tell the teacher this could be wrong. The question is, oh, have I been teaching this, this thing wrong all the time? Like, they're surprised, they're shocked. It takes some time for them to assimilate that, basically their ego prevents them from taking it. So that takes some time. So in that sense, I also written my own book, basically a critique of the Indian education system. It's called The Uneducation System. So through that, I'm studying my thoughts as well as all the thoughts of the couple of intellectuals like yourself and Claude Alvarez. So that's how I would like to contribute, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, we understand it takes time. With the students I used to teach, it took them full 1 month. For 1 month, when I was teaching the course on history, philosophy, or science, for 1 month, they thought that what I was teaching was rubbish. But then they changed. So I understand that it is such a shock. It takes time to assimilate. But you see, human lifetime is finite. So let us see in how much time this happens.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Somebody else wants to speak, Mr. Ramchandra?
In fact, I recorded a couple of talks on astronomy as well, Indian astronomy as well.
Yeah. Mr. Ramchandra wants to speak?
Is it possible for me to speak?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. As I just highlighted earlier, I'm a 12th level teacher as of now, the physics teacher and mathematics.
Yeah.
My little curiosity is about how to take it a little further, because the kind of loyalty that managements and other institutions they are having on this NCERT textbook or government printed textbooks are the kind of culture that has been imposed on us. We have a undisturbed loyalty. In that, I mean, like this kind of the revelations are. If at all this has to penetrate in the society, as a teacher or part of an institution, what are things that I can do in taking it further? I would like to hear your ideas in such kind of things.
Okay. We tried this experiment on Raju Ganit in various schools in Nashik, and we tried it in Chamarajnagar and so on. Now, what happens is that the school system is very tightly controlled. You are not allowed to think independently. And the whole idea is to drive students like a herd of sheep, threaten them with exam, and force them to learn whatever is taught. So I think that within that part of the system, it's very difficult to make a change unless you start from the top. You can't do it bottom up, because the students say they can't do anything except what the teacher teaches, and the teachers say they can't teach anything except what syllabus is prescribed, and the people prescribing the syllabus say they don't know what to do, it's all decided by NCERT, and now that is all very tightly controlled. So there are two ways of doing it. One is that we go to open schools. So in the open schools, now I'm designing a syllabus for mathematics at the primary level. The Raju Ganit, for example, is at the 9th standard level, because we started with the universities, which are autonomous institutions. So started by teaching calculus at the university level, where you start trying to change things. And because of the autonomy of the university, you are able to do that. Now, that sort of autonomy at the school level is only present in the open school system. So in the open school system, at the beginning, you are able to do certain things. And so that's the model that we are looking at now. And within the actual institutionalized schools, it is very difficult to make a change, especially if you are a teacher, because you are just a cog in a wheel, and that becomes a whole huge thing. It becomes very difficult. You have to somehow go outside the system to achieve that, or you have to change the whole system. You have to struggle to change the system, because without changing the whole system, you can't change one small part of it. You can't say, I want to teach Raju Ganit, which is totally opposite to what you learn in Euclidean geometry, and doesn't matter if you fail, because even the teachers have a problem doing that. So the whole objective is to control the education system, especially at the school level. And even at the university level, it's not easy to teach people, because they are interested in getting jobs, they are interested in going abroad. So they are interested in knowing what is done abroad and things like that. So that is a bigger struggle, but at the school level, it is particularly difficult, except in open schools. That also before the high school. So you have to converse, you have to fight with the government. And this is one step in the fight that, look, here you have got these lies in the school text, which should be removed. And if these lies are there, it is because the committee or whosoever formulated it is quite incompetent, because this has been pointed out so long, but they are not willing to change. So you have to pick up that fight and to carry it forward. After all, you see, struggle for independence took so much of time. And likewise, the struggle for this kind of epistemological independence is going to take a lot of time. It is not going to give it, you are not going to get it easily. You have to struggle for it. So that would be my submission. And you have to start the struggle, and let us see, you have to look for ways forward to struggle against the system. All right. Okay, we are reaching about 1 o'clock. If there are no further comments, then I would like to close this, and maybe we can come back. It is not the final thing. We will keep having these meetings. And so if you have further thoughts and things like that, please get in touch. And we would like to organize these issues, these discussions around that, and have further debates to point out further falsehoods in the school text, because after we point out the falsehoods, then only we can change things. So thank you all very much for coming here. Thank you for your support. I'm personally grateful. Somebody wants to say something, Mr. Prawar?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, very interesting. Just one question. Is there a possibility to start an open school, like an online open school or something?
I don't know really. Some open school has invited me. Could you please turn on your video, because it's difficult just talking to a blank patch of screen.
Sure, sir. I'm trying, but it's saying you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
I have not stopped
this.
Anyway, so I have not stopped it. But anyway, the issue started. Okay. So I don't see that you can have an open school online. I don't really know about it, but there is some open school which has started it. And once a syllabus is designed for that and implemented for that and tested there, then maybe other open schools can pick it up. So it's starting at the primary level, because the open school examination takes place towards the 10th standard level. And there are many things you are starting with. For example, the calendar. You're taught only the Christian calendar. You're not taught the Indian calendar, where the Indian calendar is relevant. And basic arithmetic is taught in a very bad way. So we're looking at arithmetic, geometry, algebra, and so on, probability and statistics and stuff like that. So that process will take some time, but this is for open schools. Now, I don't know really whether you can have an open school or I have not done this kind of organizational work in setting up an open school. You have to find out yourself.
Sure.
Right?
I think what Pravar wants to say, if I may reword his question, is it possible to have a series of online lectures by you on this topic?
That is possible. That is possible. That is possible to have a series of online lectures, but except that, there are so many online lectures. It's a question of priorities, not just online lectures about writing books and so on. And the priorities are especially sharp because, you see, my health is not that good. And I have, therefore, limited time in which to do things. So I would like to finish things which are most important. And giving online lectures is not the most important thing. Bringing out that knowledge, information, yes, but everything takes time, right? So I will do it as and when, if I get time. And yeah, there is somebody else who wants to talk. Yeah, you are the only lady, Ms. Shubha. So please, please come up with a point. At least we'll have some participation from you. Yeah, you can turn on your video, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can. We can hear you. Your video is not on. Anyway, you say what you have to say, even though the video doesn't come on.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can definitely hear you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir. This is Shubha from Bangalore. I work in one of the institutions named Purna Pramati Integrated School of Learning, where we are teaching these mathematics like medieval India and ancient geometry from past 2 months. We've already started and inculcated them in the syllabus part. Like students are compulsorily should learn these geometries from syllabus sutras and all these aspects. So I'm the beginner in this particular field in teaching, especially because I've been working in with manuscripts from past 7 years. So I thought this has to be done from the basic level. So we started this in our schools also. I just wanted a information regarding what are the steps that has to be followed in a well teaching these particular aspects. Like we have inculcated already Indian calendar system, geometry from the ancient system, syllabus sutras. We have started with some 2 or more activities where we are asking them to do some altars and other aspects. So I wanted a guidance in this particular aspect.
Yeah, well, about geometry, you can't directly start from the Shulva Sutra because that is not written for purposes of teaching. Shulva Sutra is written for artisans to construct Vedis and Chittis. So you need a textbook. Now I have a textbook on that, which is Rajju Ganit. Unfortunately, I didn't finish it because, well, I finished, but it is not copy edited. It's not finalized. So you need a textbook like that because there are numerous differences, philosophical differences, critical differences, which need to be pointed out. That you may have the same kind of propositions, but they are not the same. I just gave an example of the Pythagorean proposition in the Manav Shulva Sutra, which is fundamentally different because it involves a square root. Now, there was no square root algorithm with the Greeks, but there was a square root algorithm in India. And the square root is inexact, and therefore the Shulva Sutra term for it is subvishesh, with an avshesh, with a remainder. So you have to explain why you need a remainder. So instead of talking about irrational numbers, like square root of 2 is an irrational number and saying that it is something exact, it is not. Because you can only write down square root of 2 to so many finite number of decimal places. So there is a fundamental shift in the philosophical approach. That has to be pointed out, because that is critical. There is no point in teaching the same proposition in some slightly different way. It is a fundamentally different way which has to be brought out. And that I'm not sure that you will get it just by reading the original sources. You need to spend a lot of time to understand those sources and to convert them to something pedagogical. So maybe you can try my book, Rajju Ganit. It's not yet complete, as I said, not finalized. It is complete, but not finalized. So you can try that. That may be helpful. And we are likewise designing something for arithmetic, which is, you can't really look at it from books on history. Because what you want to do is to teach children, and to teach children, you need a specific textbook. Otherwise, children can't learn from that. It would be haphazard, disjointed. They will get turned off, won't understand what is happening. Yeah, is that?
No, sir. We have started with like from Ganita Sara Sangraha, some shlokas we have taken when we have made them analyze certain incidents and certain topics, like along with the Samskrita identification of the statement of the problems. Such type we have already started with arithmetic. We have started. We are yet to start with geometry part. So
Sangraha is not the right starting point. Ganit Sar Sangraha is written for people who are being trained to in a shop or something like that. Mahavir was a Jain. So now we are looking at the development of arithmetic. You see, you start with things like the place value system. And how did it develop in ancient India? What was it that what you find in the Yajurveda, what you find here, what you find there? So there's a whole lot of stuff which needs to be done before you come to Ganit Sar Sangraha. So Ganit Sar Sangraha will just start, okay, there are 18 decimal places. But that's not enough. To say why there are 18, why not 12, why not something else, why not 53 or whatever that you are doing. So that will just give you some sample problems. After you have developed the basis, after that you can bring in stuff like the Ganit Sar Sangraha for things like rule of 3 and so on, which is there in several other texts. But those things need to be explained and done properly. That's precisely what I am saying. You need a text. You don't just need some random tips into history, because that will be haphazard. It will leave the students confused more than anything else. This is my belief. So you need a proper textbook on arithmetic for children, which will then lead up to, for example, in this primary textbook, we don't get to the rule of 3 at all. First, you have to talk about addition, division, multiplication. You have to talk about negative numbers. West was so confused about negative numbers. De Morgan says negative numbers are evil. No, he is writing in the 19th century. So there are a whole lot of confusion that you need to take care of. What is the negative and what about zero? Now, zero, of course, exists that if you have a place value system, then you will have to have that and so on. So there are a lot of issues which are involved. It should not be symbolic. It should not be sentimental. You need to put in effort into making it work. A lot of effort. So use that sentiment to put in that effort. That's all that I would say. But we are getting sidetracked from the original issue of the Pythagorean theorem. I'm sorry. This thing is supposed to be limited to that. So we will take up these issues some other time in more detail. I think we will close this meeting now unless somebody has something urgent to say.
One last question, please.
Yeah, somebody wants to say something?
Yeah, this is Ramchandra here. I would like to have one last line from you.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Sir, I'm a little curious to know that whether you have any second liners who can, whom you have trained, who can take it forward or something like that. What's your the future plan for plan about these ideas?
I don't have a future plan. I don't know whether I have a future. So what will I make a plan for? So you can make a plan and you can start the process, right? I cannot do everything. I am doing whatever I can do. And that takes a lot of my time because each little step forward takes a lot of time. Now this little Zoom meeting, it has taken me so much time to organize, whole week has gone in that almost. And to debate these issues elsewhere and so on in various other forums, to see what are the points coming across and so on. So I don't have any future plans. You build them. I told this gentleman was asking, Mr. Saurabh Grover was asking, you do it. Don't put every onus of everything on me. You come in and I can at most, I can advise you. I can tell you what are the books and things like that and so on. But don't expect me to do everything. You start doing it, I will help you. I will join you. But you take the lead. Because it's only when the younger people take the lead that things will really start happening. Yes, Mr. Sanjeev Solanki, you want to say something?
Yep, sure. Sorry, just digressing from the Pythagorean theorem.
Yeah.
Well, it's a request. So would it be possible for you to create one lecture on functional differential equations?
There are several lectures. There is one lecture I gave in France long ago. There is a video on that already. I believe Bernard Bell is present here. He had filmed that. It is now on YouTube. So that is, yeah, he is here. So that video is available on YouTube. There is a series of 6 articles that I have written for the Physics Education Journal, which are available. So, and I'm actually working on that. So certainly I can, but at what level? At the level of an expository level or at an advanced level or at what level? That's the issue.
Yeah, my interest was from application perspective because I come from physics background and quantum mechanics. So one of your papers.
There is an application to quantum mechanics. The 6 of those functional differential equation papers, expository papers, is on quantum mechanics. Basic idea, but anyway, we are diverting very much from the topic today.
Yeah, sorry for that. You just wanted to raise. So I'll search for your YouTube lecture.
It is there. You take a look at the references there. I will send it to you. If you send me an email, I'll send you all those references.
Sure. Thank you very much. Yeah. So get back to.
Yeah. In fact, I may be giving a lecture on that. I'm planning to do that. So because that's an important issue, but not the issue right now. So,
yeah, that'd be great. I'll drop emails separately. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, is that all? Shall we adjourn? I will not say we'll conclude. We'll adjourn and we will take this up with the next meeting. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your interest. And please don't leave everything to me. You start taking initiatives. I will help in whatever way I can. I will join your initiatives and so on. But many people need to take the initiative. Don't leave everything to me, right? Let us stick to this Pythagorean theorem. I will make a resolution. I will circulate it to everybody for signature, and let's carry it forward from there, right? Okay, thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Namaste to all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.